Good morning, everybody. It is Alan again. It's Period of Review 2016, and today it is the Administration, Governance, and Website Edition. Joining me, starting from my video left, is Charlie, Chairperson.
Hello.
Chris, who runs website.
Hello.
Dan, who's wearing his festive shipping manager hat today.
It should be green. Good morning.
Maggie, Vice Chair.
Hello.
And Michael, who is covering organized play today.
Hi.
All right, we got a lot to cover, so let's get started here. I will start off by getting Charlie to go over there was a general question for what the chain of command is, for who's in charge and who reports to who, and the general how things go. So we'll cover it down to the game level, because I've been asking the 1E, and I'll ask the 2E folks to cover their details later.
Sure. This is something that I know we haven't communicated terribly well, although we do have a organizational chart on the About Us page. So you can see at any given time what the structure is. But so the top level is, upper management, and that's Maggie and myself. We're sort of equal, and that we cover each other's jobs, and we have semi-different responsibilities, but we got each other's backs, and we sort of oversee everything else. The next level down is the department managers. There are 5 of those. We have Christoph for 1E, Ross for 2E. We have Kieran for our public relations department. We have, what am I forgetting? Operations, which hasn't been filled yet. And organized play, which is Ken. And then each of those departments have their own structures. Both of the games have, below the brand manager, they have all the different positions. And then under organized play, they have the 3 continental coordinators. Under public relations is the website and the ambassadors. And under operations is sort of everyone else. It's the warehouse and it's all the support stuff. So it's the warehouse, it's the achievement system, it's
Is that where
art lives there. I guess the website lives there too, now that I think about it. It's kind of in both. But the point of the operations department was more to be like a place for everybody else to be. These are the people that serve multiple masters, and they're always working with other different departments. So they don't make sense in any one department, because they're really in every department. But then we have that open. We will be looking for a director of operations right after the start of the meeting. So that's the basic chain of command.
And when we have a chief financial officer, they will also reside within the Department of Operations.
Yep. And that is coming soon too.
All right. The other overall question I have for everybody, and I'm going to work down in reverse order so Charlie doesn't always have to go first, is somebody wanted to know what everybody considered to be their worst decision of 2016 and their best decision of 2016, and why. And I will start with Michael on this one.
Worst decision, best decision of 2016. I have no freaking clue. Best decisions probably have a greater, as far as the high level events go, to actually have more ahead of time planning in terms of where they were going to be and things of that nature. As far as low, I don't really know, to be honest with you. I'm sure I will be told what it'll be after this is out, and that's perfectly fine. But off the top of my head, I really don't know.
Okay, we'll move along to Maggie.
Well, I would probably say my worst decision is how I structured the production of cards poll, because I wasn't really considering how different first edition is from second edition because first edition has block. So had I considered that, and we got a lot of good information from the people who did that poll anyway, I think that had I considered that a little more carefully, I would have made the poll a little more flexible, where, you know, people could say, you know, that for first edition it ought to be this way, or for second edition it ought to be that way. I think my best decision of the year is the decision to join the continuing committee. I have really enjoyed serving the community so far this year since I started back in June.
All right. Moving along, Dan.
I'm going to answer this with a couple of recent events since they're on my mind. They're both Wonder related, so I don't know. Does this have to be shipping related? Because that's usually just a thing that happens. But I'm going to answer in the One E design. I wanted to have more input in the release of the last set, and I'm disappointed that I didn't make more time for myself to write the articles that I thought should have gone up with that. So that was a letdown on my part, and I'm going to try to rectify that by the end of the year. However, I think my best decision by far has been the team I put together for the next set, because I've had more fun with these two people who are in the UK and have been working with me on this set. I think it's going to be great. So that's fantastic. I mean, the downside is we have to have meetings where one of us gets up in the morning at 4 o'clock or stays up past their bedtime. But including a group of people that I had not worked with before has been a great decision, and I'm going to try to keep doing that moving forward.
Excellent. Chris, you're up next.
I've been thinking, well, I've been listening to everybody else, and I'm having a hard time coming up with an answer because I think it's probably no secret I haven't gotten a lot done this year in general. So it's hard to say what I've done well and what I've done poorly when not doing a lot, I guess, is not a decision specifically, but yeah, life in general has happened to me this year, and so for most of the year, I know a lot of things have sort of fallen by the wayside, and I've been trying to keep on top of the urgent stuff at least to get new sets released and stuff like that. We've managed to do, but yeah, I can't say anything I've really done especially well or especially poorly this year as a result.
Okay, and finally, Charlie.
I think my best decision was hiring Maggie, because she's done outstandingly at kicking my ass.
No fair, you stole her answer.
Well, yeah, but honestly, I can't think of something I've done better. We've done a lot of things that I'm proud of this year, but bringing in somebody who is at my level, who can back me up and, as I said, kick my ass when I'm being stupid, is really helpful. And Maggie's done outstanding work. She was happy to join the continuing committee, and I am so happy we brought her in, because this year could have been so much worse without Maggie. And so she deserves a massive round of applause and everyone's adoration, because she's worked very hard to make this organization work like it should. And I'm also taking credit for the team that picked her, because all I did was, sign off on it, but that's fine. Yeah. And my worst decision was kind of a situation that didn't have a good way to resolve it, and that was the whole situation with Ken and the World Championship last year. It came up this year. I'm not happy with how it ended up resolving, and I don't know that there was a way to resolve it happily. So I regret that every day. So definitely, of all the bad decisions in 2016, that seems to be the one that weighs most heavily on me.
Okay. And we'll get to the Ken Ghazi a bit later. But the next question I have here is on community activity. And it's someone who's saying their perception is that the overall level has kind of dropped, and that the activity for the committee itself has dropped to a minimum. And they're asking if that's a perception you guys agree with, and if there's a plan to counter this.
Well, I'll go in and jump in with my recent experience putting together the period of review, and I will say that it was difficult getting people to respond 2 times. And I'm, I hate to air dirty laundry, but I think it is that people are not checking the boards as much as they ought to. Now, what I can do about that, I don't know.
I think. Sorry. Let me ride on that as saying, there's some truth to that people aren't checking the boards as much as they should be. How much they should be is, we don't have any rules about that. But I don't want to point fingers, and I'm not going to, and I don't want to speculate as to why this has happened, but I know that a lot of people simply aren't enjoying the forums anymore. And part of that is the fact that we waited too long to do anything about it. When all the code of conduct stuff finally came to a head last year, the damage had already been done for a lot of people. And I think that's part of the reason why there's a perception that the participation is down, because there's a lot of people that are still playing that aren't coming to the forums anymore. I don't have a great answer for how to resolve that. And I think it varies from side to side. Like, the 2E forums are much less active than the 1E forums. I don't have a great answer for this. We need to. It is an issue we need to figure out. But
yeah, it's not like we can put out an ad or a mass email or put something in the newsletter that says, "Hey, there's a lot less trolling now." I don't think that's really gonna. I don't think that's gonna draw people back in.
Now, on the committee side, so is there, like you said, there's not a hard and fast rule, but is there a general guideline of, hey, if you're in charge of something, you should be showing up every so often?
Yeah, you're supposed to. I mean, my rule has always been, and it's been mostly about private messages, because there was a problem there for a long time, but it was, you need to check in every 72 hours. And mostly it's, I think part of it is, we have a lot of people who, I think part of it is, honestly, there are a lot of places that things can get posted that somebody needs to look at, right? It's not like all of the 2E questions are on the 2E forums. That doesn't happen. They go all over the place. There's the articles threads, there's all things Trek, there's, gameplay, there's deck designs. But it's not easy to know when you have a question to answer. So unless you read everything, which I'll be honest, that's hard to do. There is still a lot of traffic on the site. And, when I come home after working 15 hours, I can't spend 3 hours on the computer reading forums. So I jump in and I read the ones that I need to read, which are, a lot of times not public. But so I think we could address it that way by having, more specific places for specific questions to be, so that the people that have, I have a question, I have to answer questions about this topic, can know, go to this forum and check it. Catch up on everything else when you can, but these are the forums you need to be looking at. Also, private messages help. So if you ask a question and nobody answers it within a day or two, you can send a PM to the person in charge, and then they should answer that within 2 or 3 days, because that's been a rule for a while.
All right. On the player side, there's 2 that I want to bring up here. One, we have a comment that it's on the 2E side. It seems that player unhappiness with issues, finances, phase 2 cards. Like, do we think that is causing a decrease as well? Players who are demotivated, I guess would be the word.
I can't speak to anybody's motivations. I can understand the finances are a concern and have been for a long time, but we're at the end of that road. There's just, I set up the new PayPal account, but for whatever reason, it can't receive money. So I've got a case open with PayPal, and once that's fixed, we'll be golden.
Okay.
Bringing on a CFO, so that will be dealt with. But I don't know. Concern about finances has definitely led to like donations drying up. but I don't know why that would keep people from playing. Maybe it does. I don't know. And I don't hear much dissatisfaction about Phase 2. I hear some, but I think most people have enjoyed it. I could be wrong.
The other thing was last year during the Code of Conduct, there was talk of a separate board being created, like non-continuing committee, and then there was no word. Do we think is a possibility that we're losing players to, the off-site board?
I haven't heard anything about that, but I never wore one of those hats, so I don't think I would be on the list of people who would get invited to such a thing.
I certainly wouldn't. Last I heard, they had said, I had been told where it was set up, but I have no idea how active it is anymore. I mean, that seemed like a let's rally and go over there, and I don't know if that ever happened. And maybe that, I don't really mind if there's another forum out there. It kind of sucks if it's like exclusive club that everybody can't participate, but like that's cool. I'm okay with the idea of there being another place where people are hanging out and talking about Star Trek. But I don't know. The main website, Trek CC, is always going to be the place that has the official posts and all the files and stuff. So, I mean, maybe the website, maybe we need to like cut down our forum numbers just to make it. We don't need 20 different forums for stuff anymore. I wish I could. I mean, you're asking me questions to speculate on other people's motivations, and I can't really do that. So.
Well, I just did a quick Google search. I didn't see anything else for other CCG forums. Let me put in make Trek CCG great again. Nope.
Okay. So moving on here, there was a comment that it seemed that CC positions once granted only get vacated through voluntary resignation. They're asking that should it be the case that positions can be rescinded due to inactivity, or at least to be able to appoint an interim replacement? So I guess the trick is, the question boils down to, how do you get fired?
I will say that we have never. I will say that the original supposition is incorrect, but I will also say that we make it a policy not to air dirty laundry. So a number of people have been relieved of their position, and it has always been framed as a so-and-so is stepping down from this position to, protect their dignity, whatever, But that has happened in the past where somebody has been let go. More specifically, talking about what you're bringing up, I kind of agree with you in that there are some people in some positions that are kind of just sticking around, and we need to set more. It's important to remember that everybody's volunteer. That's not an excuse, but that is a fact. And people's lives change, and they can't volunteer as much. But people who do these jobs are very dedicated to the community and the games, and they don't want to say I can't do this anymore. So there needs to be a periodic check-in with all the volunteers where it's like, are you sure that you can do this? Do you want to do this for the 6 months? Do you want to take a break? At which point we could bring in an interim person, or I can't do this anymore. I want to bring in a replacement. That's fine. We need to be checking in with people more and not. This goes to a bigger issue within the continuing committee about communication, but we need to be talking to each other more about how we're doing and if the workload is manageable, if we can bring in more people to help you. Those all need to be happening much more regularly than they are. As for somebody getting fired, people generally make it very, very loudly known when they're not happy about somebody, and we need to listen to that too.
that leads into one. There was somebody's annual period of review comment about periods of review. What happened, or why don't we do the no confidence vote anymore?
The no confidence vote was only ever in myself and the rules masters, and it got very little activity when we would do it. So when we switched to this live format, we just set that aside. It's something that we could reintroduce if people wanted. I know that I've always said that I'll serve as long as people want me to, and if that's changing, then so be it. But it'd be really hard to do a no confidence vote on every single volunteer. That's it's fairly massive. But we are talking about putting together a what's the word? Bylaws. You know, when we become an official nonprofit, you have to have bylaws. So we could put in bylaws that say, you know, these certain positions go through a, you know, you're elected to a term of 1 year or whatever. We could do that if that's the route people want to go, and that's something that we're going to be asking everybody about before we do anything. From, you know, we've learned the lesson this year that we don't make major decisions without talking to everybody and getting everybody's input. So expect to see that soon.
Okay. Related to that is someone asking, why don't we let the community elect board members?
We can, if that's something that people want.
Maggie, you look like you have a thought.
Well, I was just thinking about the, like, what level of elections we would want to do. I mean, I could certainly see when we've been talking about structuring the continuing committee, and part of what's going to go into our bylaws, we've been thinking about a 7-member board that would consist of the chair, the vice chair, and the 5 department heads. And I could certainly see that could be a set of positions we could do elections for, do the no confidence votes for. Some of the more I guess we could call them technical positions, like the rules masters and the website and shipping and things like that. Maybe not, because that just running that sort of thing would get pretty crazy pretty fast. But I mean, if Charlie's open to doing election of board members, I could certainly see that going into the bylaws.
Okay, and that leads nicely into.
Sorry, real quick. I do want to say that if you go to have too many elections and have too many positions that are tied to, recall votes or whatever, your number of people willing to do those jobs is going to drop to very low. Like, I would say many of our current volunteers below the department head level would be like, I'm not going to deal with this and I'm going to step down. So we have to be careful about that. That is a factor we need to consider.
Okay. Now, you guys have kind of mentioned that it's in the works, but the next big topic was on what the new structure will be once the finances are moved. The question that I got was a little technical, but it was basically they're asking, like, are we going a 501 or a limited, or there's some questions about ownership. So I guess the overall one would be is, where are we at with the financials?
Well, I'm in the midst of putting together the application and a committee for the chief financial officer position. I've taken that on as committee chair, and next week for me is finals week, and then I have a month of winter break, so I'm going to have time to dedicate to getting that finished, getting an application up on the boards, et cetera, et cetera. My thoughts on that is, I want to hire somebody who has more experience in the area of nonprofits than me. I am not a financial wizard. I mean, I can balance my checkbook and stuff, but I'm not, you know, I don't day to day deal with financial issues. So I want to hire somebody who has more expertise in that area. I have had contact with some continuing committee members who know more about nonprofit status. And, you know, if the chief financial officer we hire thinks that we should go a particular way, I mean, that's going to be one of the things that we are going to look for, is somebody who can say, who can look at a bunch of different options and say, this is going to be the best option for the continuing committee.
I have a question, AI.
Sure, go ahead.
Charlie, are you muted? Who was saying I have a question?
Wasn't me. I didn't say anything.
Wasn't me.
Okay, that was...
It's a ghost.
The ghost of the Charlie.
It is the secret continuing committee ghost that
Known as Matt Kirk?
he's in the other room.
Okay.
But that's, you know, that I know that Charlie's done some research on this and has had some, you know, has had some initial leanings on which way to go, but honestly, this is a really important thing for us to do, and I want somebody who's an expert in this area looking at the options and making a good recommendation.
So, in U.S. law, particularly in California law, the option that I think is the best option is what's called a limited liability corporation. It basically means that the corporation exists as a entity separate from the people who are part of it. So that if, you know, Paramount or whomever wants to take legal action against the continuing committee, they're taking it against the continuing committee and not Charlie, Maggie, whomever else. In terms of ownership, like, you have to have somebody who owns that company. There's no way around that. And I don't know why that wouldn't be me, but it can certainly be decided by people that that's not who you want to be in charge of it. I'm certainly not the type of person who would be like, well, you voted me out, so I'm going to, you know, take the corporation and go home. I wouldn't do that. I would certainly transfer the ownership to whomever or whatever needs to be done. I'm not an expert on all this. It's all research that I've done before, and every person who's volunteered to help me has bailed. So I've had a couple people from the community say, yeah, I'll help you with this, and then they either rescinded their opportunity of help or never answered me. So if anybody out there wants to help make this, you know, and again, this is all going to go up to the public before we do anything. But if somebody out there wants to, you know, work with me to actually figure out the best option under U.S. law, then please speak up. But only if you're willing to actually do it.
Okay. Now, is there, and I work with accountants, so I know enough to know that I don't know. Is there an option of doing memberships? The example I'm thinking of is, I don't know if you guys have it stateside, but we have a company called Mountain Equipment Co-op, and it's to shop at the store, you have to buy a membership, and then that gives you a voting right. Basically, you buy into the store. So is that an option for the community to basically put their money up to, I guess, own a part of the continuing committee?
Never thought of that before. You know, there's something similar with REI down here, but you don't have to be a member to shop at REI. You just get benefits. So I don't know if that's something that is even a thing down here.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah,
That's totally crazy thing to. I've never heard of. You know, I've never thought of that before. So I don't have a good answer for you.
All right. The last piece was just let's see, financials, who owns the structure, and we've kind of touched on it, but the plan for determining the bylaws, and it sounded like we're doing a committee of sorts, or they're asking how much the public will be involved in it.
I haven't fleshed out the exact details, but I think it would start with, here are the things that we need in the bylaws, and then let people submit. I don't want to do it like this. The problem is if we do it like true democracy style, it could take forever, and I'd like to get this done. So I don't know if a committee is the best right, where we just, anybody want to do this, we give them the points and then say, go write these and come back. Maybe that's the way to go. We could write the bylaws and then post them for comments, but then everybody will yell that we didn't ask for input, even though we're asking for input. So I don't know what the best strategy is. Again, if you have a suggestion, please speak up. Let me know what you want to see done. Do you want to write them all as a group? Do you want to have a committee do it and then review them? Do you want us to post something and then tear it apart? What do you want? Tell me. We'll do what you want.
Okay. Then related to that is financials. And there's a lot of questions about transparency, some comments about that if the community decides to pull the plug, the CC is unable to function. But I think the first one, beyond the general, hey, how are we at financially, was they were asking about the predictability of expenses. For instance, is our web hosting flat? Does it scale depending on how much traffic we have?
It's flat. It's $129 a month right now.
Okay. And do we have, so for overall finances, do we have anything to report on that? That's been that's been a issue for multiple years now.
Again, we've got about 4 months worth of money to pay the bill, give or take some. But we have also other expenses coming up. We have to print new promos. We have to, basically donations have dropped to zero. The only thing we're getting is the tournament kit purchases, which are limited to one a month. So, we had a bunch of money at one point, and then we bought playmats, we bought more promos, we bought buttons, we just bought a lot of stuff. I'm going to make a big donation here at the end of the year. Basically, my Christmas bonus from work is going to get donated back to the CC. But our active flow of money right now is close to $600.
So that's $600 a month expenses?
No, that's how much we have on hand.
Oh, okay. And then, okay, that's...
I understand that people aren't donating because they want to see the financials. I understand that. We're working on it. It's not like I've said. Nobody's going to believe me because I've said this for 5 years, but it's actively being worked on. It's one of Maggie's major projects. It would already be done if this like I set up a new PayPal for us. I sent money to it. The money went away. It didn't appear. It just vanished. It was $5 before anybody freaks out. But until I know why it's not working and what's missing, I'm not going to just switch it where then we have nothing. Chris assures me that we can switch all of our Promenade stuff to the new account super easily. It's just PayPal has to figure out what's not working and get back to me. And I got a email from them Tuesday that was, it looks like everything is set up correctly, but there is a permission issue on the back end. Our IT team is currently working on it. So I don't understand what that means, but it's literally this close to being done. So once it's done, we will figure out a way to make everything public. My number one concern about making everything public is right now I see every name of people that donate. And I don't want that to be public because that seems unfair. I would just like it to say donation $30. Doesn't matter who did it, right? So if we can get to that end, and if we can find a API or something that provides that anonymity, we'll just make it public, and you can see every dollar coming in and going out.
All right. Does anybody else have comments on financials before we move on? Right. Okay. So then I'm going to pick on Michael now because I have a couple of questions on organized play. First one was people asking when we are going to see, or will we see, online play upgraded to high-level events?
I'm looking over because Kenneth's in the room, so I'm just going to say this out loud. Yes, there will be high-level events for online tournaments. More likely than not, we'll probably do it slowly in terms of having online regional, but not like an online masters or anything like that yet. We kind of want to see how this goes first. But the plan is for 2017 to have at least an online regional for 1E, 2E, and triples.
All right. The next piece of it was for ratings. Do you think that the rating system needs revamps? And then they're suggesting decaying ratings. And I know that's from players who got their rating, and they don't play anymore, but now you can't get those points back.
In terms of the rating system, we can't really get rid of like every tournament that's ever been played or anything like that. Logistically speaking, that's just not possible. So the only thing really that could be done would be to change the default in terms of what is first shown. Like if it was the year to date, like Knob shows on in All Things Trek, but you can also do it yourself and the player's side. Or if you just do it based off of, do we do it for 1 year, do we do it for 2 years, things like that. Personally, I'm not against it because, quite frankly, I don't care. The only thing I care about ratings for is to get achievements for it, and that makes me happy. But in terms of going forward, whether or not that will be changed, it's not currently on an agenda, but that doesn't mean that the organized play department won't put it on the agenda in the future. But as it stands right now, I don't see anything currently on the horizon to change this.
All right. Then the other big one was the big Kengazi event of the year. And the questions kind of nail into two parts. The first one is someone allowed to voluntarily forfeit a victory after an event is concluded? Basically on the, are you allowed to give back the title on your own?
Currently, we don't have a mechanism in place for that yet. Whether or not that gets put in, I don't see why not. If the person who it had happened to, the person actually did it and says, "Oh, I'm so sorry, this shouldn't have happened." I just say, "You know what? I'm out. I don't want it. You can have it." We just don't have something in place for that yet. Whether we do or not, I honestly hadn't even thought about it. Should we? It's just might as well. I mean, if you're going to have something like that where we can have the ability for someone to say, "You know what, I don't want this," and to give it to someone else, I don't see a downside to having that in there. Will it come up very often, if at all? Probably not. But it's just basically text saying, okay, if this does come up and they say okay, then we can do it at that time. But currently, we don't have that in place yet.
Isn't it kind of a huge pain in the ass, though? Like, our system is going to still show that the other person has we have to go in and manually change a bunch of stuff, right? Well, I'm asking. I don't know how it works from programmatically, but
I would imagine that it would be that something would have to be done on the back end, but just because something is necessarily hard to do doesn't mean we shouldn't have the ability to do it. And I can't see, granted, I have no programming knowledge whatsoever, so I could be completely wrong about this, but I think that it could be done after the fact.
Yeah, there is actually something in the system for it already, because the first year, I think, or maybe the second year after the system, the tournament system was rolled out, there was an issue with somebody being disqualified from a major tournament, and so I had to go in at the time and program something to allow for exceptions, to allow someone to be disqualified even though they'd already beat people, and all sorts of weird stuff. And I haven't looked at that code in years, and I assume it still basically works.
Hopefully, we'll never have
how
to find
it would
out.
interact with all the achievement stuff. And yeah, hopefully we'll never have to find out. It was put in there once for one specific occasion, and it is written generically enough it should still work, but it's not the kind of thing that you worry about maintaining, because hopefully it's not ever going to be an issue again. But it does exist anyway, yes.
Now, the question that came in had a quote from Ken that said, "I feel I should be stripped of these titles. I cannot feel I deserve them or earn them after watching the videos." So they're pointing out that to them, that sounds like he did forfeit them. And did we say, no, you can't forfeit them, or did circumstances change? And they're just kind of asking for a wrap up on what was the final result of that.
Okay. Final result was Ken didn't feel like he deserved the title. So Ken said, you know what? I shouldn't have it. Now, at the time, and still is the case, we don't have anything in place to take this title back. So what he decided to do was to simply not play. That way, there could be no say, oh, well, he got a 2-round bye for this, and therefore he did this well, and we took away from other people's playing. And the fact that he just wasn't in a place in his life that he wanted to actually play. So, in terms of the CC, no, nothing officially happened. He pretty much self-reprimanded himself and just didn't decide not to play for a few months. So in terms of did we do anything on the CC? No, he did it himself, and now it's something that I know full well, as I glare over to him, that he regrets ever having caused in the first place, and will never happen again. But in terms of officially speaking for the CC, no, we don't have a mechanism in place to post-punish a player after a tournament's been done. Whether we will or not, that's something that we'll probably debate at the start of this coming year for various reasons.
Okay. And the follow-up to that. Oh, somebody's echoing. There's a question about, so is there any discussion, because the current rule as we understand it is once the event is done, that's the results. Is there talk about rules changing it to have, now that we have videos and whatnot, that if something is discovered after the event, to retroactively change the results? Is that something we're looking at?
It's something that has been talked about. In terms of if we've come up with a decision, no, we haven't. There's the problem with it is you're taking away the tournament director's ability to basically run a tournament, where no one informed the director saying that, okay, so and so made this mistake in our game, and has made it multiple times, or he rigged his hand, or any number of things. Because because not every event has been filmed. You're basically taking those type of situations out of the director's hands of that tournament and into everyone being able to do it, sort of like a after the fact referee, for lack of a better term. So granted, because quite frankly, no one caught it at the time. No one caught it until they actually watched the videos and saw that, yes, Ken drew 8 cards, which we are now currently teasing him about, and probably will for quite some time. But it's something that was never brought up at the tournament at the time, nor for months afterwards. So whether or not we have the mechanism in place to say, you did this, therefore your wins are no longer count, or you get a game loss or whatever, we don't have a consensus as to what we're going to do about that. What we probably will come up with something, whether it's all the wins are gone, or you simply don't get the title, or what have you. We don't have something definitive yet, but I would imagine that because of this, that we probably will in sometime in 2017. But I have no idea as far as what it is yet.
Okay. Anybody have some data? All right. Then moving on, time to poke at Chris and web pages.
Actually, Alan, can I just jump in for a second?
Of
I just
course.
want to say that the whole Kengazi issue was like the most horrible thing that I had to do this year as a member of the CC. It was just awful any way we went. So I just wanted to put that out there. Now you can go on to poking Chris about the website.
And if it makes you feel better, I still have nightmares about that phone call.
It was bad.
Okay, so first up was asking about apparent progress on new player pages. Do we need some independent individual or group to just do it like with the 1E rulebook?
Yes, we've needed some independent player or group to do it since we launched the new website. I can design pages. I can't provide content for all of them. And at the time when Charlie and I and Johnny originally did our big website redesign, however many years ago that was now, we said right off the top, we need a landing page for new players, but we don't have any material yet. So, at the time, I think I linked to a section of the articles, which is not a good thing, but it was only ever meant to be very temporary. Well, content was created for us, and every single time we have asked anybody to create that content, it has never happened. And we've solicited specific individuals, we've solicited the community over the years, we've done a lot of things. And I think I solicited the writing staff at various points in time. Yeah, there's something about that page that apparently it just can't get written.
Sorry to interrupt, but I do have 2E intro content from Tyler that he wrote.
Okay.
It probably needs an update, but I'll get it to you.
Anyway, as far as I know, I have never seen any of that material, and so there's nothing I can do with it until we get someone to do something with it.
Okay.
To create it.
The next part was about achievements, and people pointing out that there were achievements released in April and they are still not active today, and asking when that will be fixed.
Yes. Yeah, like I said in the opening, it's no great secret that I've had some issues this year with actually having any time to get anything done. I moved countries, moved sides of the continent, and at the same time got hit with some massive projects at work, and that I've been putting in far too much time on. And so between all of those issues, I've not really had as much time to sit down and actually focus on anything, least of all achievements, which takes a whole different kind of brain power than any of the other website update stuff. So I know those have been pushed off far too long. The good news is my big work project is wrapping up this week. Actually, as soon as we get out of this call, I have some more stuff to. Going to probably spend most of this afternoon finishing stuff for that. But that is finally wrapping up this week. We're getting to the end of our quarter, and all of our deliverables are due and everything. So fingers crossed that after that, and with being settled into a house now and actually having time to breathe, I will be. My goal is definitely to get the achievement stuff all completely done and rolled out within the next few weeks.
Okay, which leads nicely into the last question I have on web pages, where they were asking if there's any plans to increase the number of people on the web development team.
Yes, actually, when it was obvious, 6 months ago or whatever, that I was struggling to keep up with anything, I guess it was one of those catch-22s. I basically told Charlie, I understand I'm not doing well. If you need to replace me, go ahead. But I don't have time to help pick my replacement. I don't have time to help train my replacement. So, good luck with that. So obviously he decided to just wait it out and wait for me to get back, and he had faith in me that I would get back to working on stuff sooner than later, and so he let me sort of do what I needed to do. But yes, now now that I do have time, I am bringing on help. James Heaney, BCS Wowbagger, whatever his handle is on the forums, is coming on as an assistant, and so he's got full access now. He's the one that designed the 1E rule book that you were talking about, which is a really cool interactive page. It lets you expand different sections and jump to different sections and all sorts of neat stuff. So yeah, he is going to be helping me a little bit now. He's got full FTP access to the site, so he can take a look at all my scripts, and he's working on trying to figure out what the heck I'm doing. Keeping in mind that these scripts have been programmed across years of time, and when I started, I barely actually knew any PHP. So there's a bit of a progression from messy to a little cleaner, but still building onto the messy, and it's not the prettiest thing to work with for anyone who's not familiar with it. But yeah, he is coming on now to help me out with some small projects, and to also help out with the front page redesign project that's been ongoing for a year or two now. So he's going to be trying to put together that front page, since I obviously don't have time to do it. And then yeah, he'll be helping out with any other small issues as he gradually gets more comfortable with my programming style and with where to find things. He's going to be trying to sort of take on a bit of that as well.
Okay. And I have a couple notes here from the chat room. One versus a note from Ken saying that there is a organized play video policy that's been written while he was away and is ready for release. He didn't realize that it hadn't actually gone public yet, and we'll be looking into getting it out ASAP.
The reason it didn't go out yet is we were going to put it in the OPG, and so we've been waiting for a couple other updates that were going to go in there. But we can certainly put it out separate from that if need be.
Okay. And then the next question here from the chat is, the website is fantastic, but there is very little very little content on YouTube that could attract new players. Are there any plans for basically entry-level or streamed content up on YouTube?
I actually have the answer to that question. Dan Madison sent me a statement since he couldn't be here today. And I don't think he can come for the call-in show either. So if you don't mind, I'll just read it out to you guys. For the most part, my status this year has been treading water. I continue to reliably stay up to date on Facebook and Twitter with all the Trek CC news. I seek out and send out spoilers for soon-to-be-released sets to keep players engaged on social media. I make contact and keep in contact with tournament organizers to help cover large events, and usually with live updates or as close to live as possible. I began to work on several projects that are currently on hold, as my current computer is basically garbage and can't reliably run any recording or streaming software. I'm planning on upgrading after tax time. Without going into too much detail on projects that are still in planning stages and subject to change, I'm planning on bringing back my own podcasting or video interviews. I'm considering working on a few how to play and or how to navigate the site videos, and I'm determined to make our YouTube presence impactful again and may even elicit help from other volunteers in doing so. None of this will be possible until I can upgrade my computer, so that's going to be a few months in the future. Also, he's very deep right now into planning of Worlds 2017. He's working on a draft event schedule and gathering prize support for first edition events. He says anyone who with questions is welcome to PM him. And that's Dan Madison, also known as OK Coyote.
All right.
We also had a couple of years ago, we started a project. We had a whole team of people that were going to make like a crash course series of YouTube videos, like how to play TUI, and then it kind of stalled out. So if there's somebody who would like to take the lead on that,
yeah, that was actually one of my projects a couple of years ago when I started at this new job where I am doing video production and stuff for my work, which is why I have such a nice studio I'm sitting in. And I figured, hey, I'm going to be doing this. I'm going to get some nice gear to do video production at home. I can sort of retask some of that to do some Star Trek videos as well. And then unfortunately, right after I was hired, they changed the video production model, so they weren't sending me nearly as much nice hardware as I'd originally been promised. And that was part of what stalled it out, is that I didn't have the same access to hardware I had been hoping to get. But the forum that we did all of the work on does still exist. It's got a bunch of scripts and stuff that I had some people help me write initially, and I have opened that up to Dan and also to Kieran when he came on as the Director of Public Relations. So they have access to all that material, and I'm hoping that they will be able to retask some of that to use that in the near future.
All right. And that leads nicely into a question I got sent where there was a lot of people commenting that we're always saying, hey, we need help with this, or if you want to help with this. And then people pointing out that they did send in and never heard a reply back. Playtesting was a pretty regular response that people had applied to playtest and just never heard an answer. Can we talk about what's up and what you guys are planning to do about it?
That's 100% my fault. So we have two email addresses where playtester applications go. We test and one test at trekcc.org. And they forward to me because at the time they were set up, there was no such thing as brand managers. And there was an individual in the forums, Leggett Ducat, who said, I sent one in and never heard back. And I'm like, that's odd. So I looked and I found it. It was just in my inbox and I had never done anything with it. And that's 100% my fault. I just sent it to Christopher this morning and he's going to take a look at it. I have also gone in and changed those email addresses to now go directly to the brand managers. So that when you do apply, it will go straight to the people who are managing the playtest team. So that should never happen again. And I apologize.
All right. Another one from the chat room asking for updates on the outcomes of our various surveys. Okay, he's got 3 questions in there. So we'll start with, do we have updates on the outcomes of our various surveys?
Well, I mean, for the one that I put up about the number of sets per year and the volume of cards, I did post the survey results to the announcement thread about a month after the survey, 3 weeks after the survey went live. As far as I know, the brand managers were using that information as part of how they're setting up their release schedules, and the number of sets they're going to put together. But I don't know what their final decision on volume of cards for the future is going to be.
Okay. And the other two questions, just for Sasha and there, were both for second edition, so I have put those on my checklist for next week's TUI, because I don't believe. Well, actually, Michael might know this one. Is there plans for a new second edition tournament format?
It's something that's just getting started in terms of being tested. It's something that we're looking to move away from Academy because, well, quite frankly, we're on 38 sets, but only 14 of them are Decipher ones. So it's not really as feasible. I mean, pretty much you can make a world-winning deck with an Academy deck. I could point to a deck that might have some of those cards in it. But so what we're looking at is kind of looking at whether we're going to do it with as a new format, possibly different cards that are enabled for that, or even so much as just changing a card pool, or there's any number of different ways that you can go about doing it. So we're kind of looking at all these options over a period of time. It's not something that we're looking to replace the main format. This would be more of something that we would be looking to replace Academy with, for it to be a more new player friendly format. Because after all, the cards are printable now, so it's not like you can't get any card you want. But it's more of saying, okay, if I'm a new player, I don't want to have to deal with Original Thinker Clerk, or I don't want, say, All Consume Evil to destroy my people because some evil person with wearing glasses and a plaid shirt right over here might have just killed all your people. Things like that, where you're trying to make it easy to get done in an hour, can show all the different types of many of the different types of things that can be done, but at the same time, kind of keeping it more equal for everyone to be able to do at the same time. So for obvious reasons, it's a lot. So it's something that we're looking into, but it would be replacing Academy rather than making it like the main format that most of us play. It's not like Open and OTF for 1E for equivalency. It would be more like it would be kind of more like Block, but not Block.
My personal feeling is for competitive Trek, we really do need 2E OTF. But that's just my personal feeling, and I'm letting the 2E guys come to their own conclusions. It's hard to say that 1E OTF didn't do miraculous things for the state of 1E.
Okay, this one's a bit, the way it's asked is a little odd, so I'm just going to run down the list, because the question was, does anyone care or not care about the newsletter?
I like the newsletter.
That is something people have asked us for forever, and Kieran has done a fantastic job with it. I don't know why you wouldn't read it. But I guess you need to tell us if you care. We don't have a way to tell how many people download it, so are you reading the newsletter? Let us know. If you're not reading the newsletter, why not?
All right. A general one here about information gathering. To make important decisions, the committee needs information about how the game is played at every level. Where do you guys think that you can improve in information gathering?
one idea that I have had, and it requires Chris to be back on his feet and caught up with stuff. But I was thinking about doing a sort of like a random customer satisfaction survey post tournament. Like when a tournament result was submitted, it would pick a random number of participants and send them an email to or a message that would be like, "Hey, what did you think of what happened? Here are some questions that we wanted to ask you about your latest tournament." And we probably would have to attach an incentive to completing it, but it'd be interesting to get those results. Actually get some, like, we look at the deck lists a lot, to see what's going on. But it's nice to get like the people level view. How was your experience at this event?
Yeah, and we try to get some of that out of tournament reports as well when people post those, but they don't always have the best information in them.
Yeah, I'm really bad at remembering what happened in all of my games. So my tournament reports tend to be a little bit sparse.
Another one, I'll run down the list left to right. I think hopefully we're all in the same order. Somebody in the chat room is asking, who in the continuing committee would win a game of musical chairs? So we'll just do a quick list of names. So Charlie.
I'm very slow, so I would not win a game of musical chairs unless it was like combat musical chairs, at which point I might have a slightly better chance.
All right, so who's your vote for winning?
Maggie.
Okay. Chris?
I think I have to echo Ken's vote, which is Andrea, because she's vicious.
All right, Dan?
Me, I'm fast. Very fast.
Maggie?
I would say Ken, because he's a big man. He throw his mass around.
All right, and Michael?
Oh, I'm going to hear about that later. I'm going to pick me because I'm just so weird that I will end up winning. Plus, I've won the last 3 musical chair games I've played against. Granted, they were against children, but that's beside the point.
All right. And a more serious question. Well, we do have one person saying they like the newsletter, so there's one vote. But we have a question about the forum search engine that's it's returning fewer and fewer results because of the overuse of search terms. Is that an issue that's fixable? And is there plans to fix it?
Yeah, that's an issue that's has been on the radar. The problem with it is that in order to tweak anything with the forum search engine, it requires completely recalculating the entire, completely rebuilding that entire database, which tends to take at least 24 hours to run. These days, it's probably more like 36. Last time I reran it, I think it was 24 hours. And that was a couple of years ago. And the server has been running, I'm sure people have noticed the server has been running a little slowly recently anyway, and doing something like that would probably destroy the server for a good couple days. So I'm aware of it, but there's limited in what I can do about it. I'm sort of weighing the impact of fixing it versus the impact of leaving it as it is. And for how many people seem to actually use the forum search engine, I'm more inclined at the moment to leave it the way it is.
So I will say this: if you go to Google,
yes,
and you search what you put in the search term, and then say site trekcc.org/forums, it does a really good job. Or if you want to search a specific subforum, you just copy the link to that forum and put it there. But Google search is pretty good at it.
That is only for public forums. Obviously, any private project forums and stuff people have access to, they cannot search that way.
So when you say it'll ruin the server, that's it'll slow down for everything else because it'll be busy redoing the index?
It will basically grind to a halt for 36-ish hours, yeah.
Okay. Do we have the option of just replacing our search with like one of those Google custom search bars?
I could probably look in, yeah. I mean, that I don't think would be too hard, but as I said, that excludes any private forums, any project forums. So people working on developing new sets and or any other projects you might be part of, you can't go back and look up anything that happened in them in the past when using that method anyway.
All right.
I just got a message from Andrea saying, Dan, it is on. And at our next get together, we are playing musical chairs. So apparently that's something to look forward to.
And then you just need Coyote there with his new computer to stream it, and there's content.
There we go.
Well, now I know what's happening at Gen Con next year.
All right. So the other next question I have here in line was they'd asked any incentives for CC members so that they'll keep up the great work, which I think we need to add in. What are the current incentives / benefits / remunerations for continuing committee members today? And then are we planning on upping it?
All right. So this is something we have historically not been great at, but we are changing that. So everybody who is a current volunteer will be getting a Christmas present as soon as I submit the list to Dan. We made this year special foils specifically for volunteers. So this will be a foil card that the only way you can get it is volunteering. The regular printable AIs will be made public so that you can use the cool AI. But the foil, you have to either be a volunteer or trade from a volunteer. So we're going to continue doing that. And the other thing we're going to do is I actually have to thank Johnny for this because he sort of invented it. Johnny's been really good at regularly putting in rewards for his team. So what we're going to be doing is giving each department head, you can assign this many foils to your team. And the department head will say, okay, I'm going to split them evenly, or this guy really worked hard, so I'm going to give him an extra one, and this guy didn't work so hard, so I'm not going to give him an extra one. And then, so every 6 months, all the volunteers will be getting a volunteer thank you promo and some number of tournament promos from whatever our current series is. All the volunteers also have a free premium membership right now. So that's the plan going forward. I am certainly open to suggestions, especially suggestions that don't cost money.
The best kind of suggestion. All right. So the last one, all right. We'll cover this. Questions about the raffle. I'm hoping there's going to be more of a question. But
there was a question about the raffle, I think, that Amber posted in the thread earlier today.
Yeah,
is
there going to be a fourth quarter raffle? I haven't answered that yet because, quite frankly, it's up for debate whether or not we're going to move forward. We have some thoughts about what we're going to do with the cards that we've been using for the raffle and those kind of prizes, but we will see what we can do about that. If we do have a raffle, I do have a date set. It's on my calendar already. I believe I talked about it at the end of the last raffle, and it's like the third week.
I think we should probably go ahead and do it for this one, and then maybe our other plan will do starting next year.
So is it because we're running low on the really rare decipher foils?
No, it's just that we had another idea of something fun to do with it. And I can say that the date is the 14th of January.
I think the issue is that there are no bins up. So
putting bins up is a very manual process, so it takes time, and I just haven't gotten to it. But if we're going to do it, I will put something up soon.
Okay.
All right. Well, that answers the when might bins be up question. Okay, so the last thing I have, and we'll run through this and see if anything else comes up in the chat, was people commenting that in the period review, we talk about it and then we don't set goals for next year. So I'm going to run down the list. I'm going to, again, go right to left on what your guys' goals are for 2017, keeping in mind that next year when we meet again to do the review, then we'll be covering and kind of discussing how things went. So Michael, for Organized Play, goals for 2017.
Goals for 2017 have all the promos for high-level events picked out and which we actually do, except for one. We are missing one continental one for 1E, but otherwise the rest of the high-level events like Masters, Nationals, Continentals, Worlds, those cards have all been picked, so yay on that. Have high-level events scheduled for as early in advance as possible. For North America, I already sent the list out of what's going to be where. I'm going to update that before the end of the year to include schedules, locations, things of that nature for the ones that I have. And beyond that, kind of look into how the online regional will go in terms of participation, things of that and of that nature, and then just kind of react to what we see in terms of tournaments, in terms of number of events, people attending, things of that nature. So that's what our goals are for 2017, and I fully expect that we're going to hit those.
All right. Maggie for Vice Chair.
My goal for 2017 is to hire a chief financial officer and have that person help us determine what the best path forward for nonprofit status is. And to that end, I am going to ask anyone who has experience in the areas of accounting, bookkeeping, and or I guess you could say working with forming a nonprofit. If you have any of those skills, please, please, please consider applying for the position. I know you're out there.
All right. Got a note here from Ken. His goal is to get caught up on organized play guide updates. Yeah, that is what his goal is to get the organized play guide updated. All right. And moving down the line is Dan for shipping.
Yeah, we I asked Chris to run some numbers. We shipped out 788 requisitions in 2016 so far. So I'm hoping we can keep those numbers and get that stuff out. We also made 3,250 cards for various things. I'm hoping we can. My goal is to push to make sure that those promos are actually made well before the events, so that we don't have any issues again this year that we've had just about every year with a specific event not getting the cards that they need or that they were promised. So if we can make it through 2017 with everything prepared and ready to go, I think that'll be a big achievement.
Okay, and Chris for website.
My goal is to get back into working again after a rough year this year. I'd like to be able to get back at keeping, not just keeping afloat, which is basically what I've been doing for the last 6 months, but actually making more progress, developing more cool features and stuff for the website. I don't think there was really anything major that went up this year aside from maintenance stuff and new expansions and things. But I'd like to see if I can come up with some new feature that we can add to the website next year. And I have no idea what that is yet, but I'll keep my eyes open. If anybody has any suggestions, feel free to let me know and I'll see what I can do.
Okay, and last but never least, Charlie.
I'm looking for 2016 has been a rough year on a lot of levels, and I'm looking forward to I want 2017 to be positive and transformative. We have a lot of issues internally with communication that we need to address, and we are addressing them. We need to get our bylaws done. As Maggie said, we need to get the CFO thing done. There's just a lot of stuff that's been hanging over our heads that for years that we need to complete so that we can move forward. So I'd like to even see that stuff done, in the first quarter of 2017 so that we can spend the rest of the year, innovating. I think the continuing committee for a couple of years now has been in a rut of this is how we set things up, so this is how we do it. And I don't know that applies anymore. Our community has changed over the past 10 years. And we need to change with it. So we need to look at everything in our organization and challenge ourselves to see that is this really working for what we need, you know? So I'm looking to get all that done in 2017 and continue to make the games that we make and continue to improve them and make them better step by step. 2016 has really been a survival year, so it's time to dig ourselves out of the bunker and get moving forward.
Okay, and I'm going to ask Dan this one because it was showing up in the chat stream, but just for folks who are watching later. Question on Tribbles League kits. Are they coming back?
Yes.
Yay!
Honestly, we're just waiting for the printers to bring it back to us, and then we'll put those back up in the promenade. I think we're good on stock. I probably should say that usually we do a new series of tournament promos at the start of the year and the midpoint. We're going to be a little bit late this year. We're waiting for everything to be approved and sent to Art, and I don't think that's happened yet. So when that comes back, we will move forward with new kits. I'm also told that upon further review, we may be able to lower the price of the kits a bit. So we may be looking forward to that early next year. And we do have enough inventory of the current kits that I will just leave those up for December and probably January. And hopefully January 31st, we'll be rolling over to the new tournament promos. So, yay.
Okay. And that brings us to the end of the questions we have for you guys today. So thank you all for coming. Again, that is Charlie, Chris, Dan, Maggie, and Michael. Next week on the Saturday is second edition. That's the 17th at 10 a.m. Eastern. And I'll stall for a minute while I follow links. And then our new call-in show will be next Sunday, the 18th at 1 p.m. Eastern. And that one is going to be open mic. So show up with your questions and we will go through as many of them as we can in 2 hours. Because then after that, I go to my daughter's laser tag. And, well, I'm not missing shooting my daughter with laser tag. So again, thank you all for watching and sending in your questions. And we will see you next week.